Welcome to another off-season installment of a Brewster podcast. Randy Weigand's back with me, and we'll be talking about the Johnson League free agent signings this time. So welcome back, Randy.
Hi, what's up, man?
Same old, like bourbon, talking about baseball.
But I was gonna say, are you just mainlining podcasts at this point?
Yeah, I'm getting worn out. I still got to do all the editing, but it's actually love doing the podcast. It's the 2 to 3 hours of research for them that really.
Well, there's a reason you get double the points that the rest of us do for hosting.
I don't even. I mean, I definitely
No, I know.
Getting the points and like encourages me to do them, but it's just more. They're just so much fun to do.
Oh, they are. I completely
and
agree.
It's really neat, like talking like Fred hasn't done one before, but Fred Holmes did the Frick League free agency with me, and it's having a new voice to hear and a new set of thoughts and a person that you've watched manage a team for years and finally getting to talk to them about kind of their thought process is just super fun.
Because you got to be sick of me and Tyler at this point.
No, there's also that there's the nice and the familiarity, right? Like I kind of know where your thoughts are going and what we're going to talk about a lot of the time, so it makes it a little bit simpler. So the mixture's good. I thought we kind of talked before the show. We thought we'd talk about a couple topics here. What do you think about this free agent class?
Not great.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
not great. I wouldn't say atrocious because there were a few names out there.
I'm closer to atrocious
not great on the whole.
than great. Only because
I would give it on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being like absolutely loaded. I would give it like a 3 or a 4.
Okay, I'll give it. I'm towards the 3 end. Like I'll say that it's not a 1. It's not the worst you can imagine because there were a couple players to sign, but like there was like 1 to 2 starting pitchers that you would want to get. Handful of relievers and some DHs and some corner outfielders.
Well, and were there any starting pitchers remotely close to their prime?
No,
Gomez
is one of those things where
32.
If you needed starting
33?
pitching depth, if you needed the top end starting pitcher, or if you needed starting pitching depth, or you needed middle infielders, you were screwed. Like or if you needed to sign a lot of players,
well,
like
you can get depth if you're willing to take a bunch of 34 and 35-year-olds on 1 and 2 year deals.
Right.
You can go that way because there were a bunch of those guys out there.
There were, but again, a lot of them had warts or were declining. It was just a tough.
But a lot of them were reasonably. You can get them for reasonably priced money in 1 or 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's interesting how different it is because last year when we were doing this, the theme was all these teams had cash on the table and there were free agents around that they could have signed. One, we don't quite have as much cash on the table this year, especially in the Johnson. Now, the Frick is different. There's a ton of cash left on the table in the Frick. But I don't know who I would sign it. I mean, I can't blame anybody for not signing guys. Like, you don't pay huge long-term, even big short-term deals.
Like, I remember last year, who was it, Edmonton and Rockville? You were just like, or I guess they may have still been Carolina back then. But
yeah, Aaron had some good points. Aaron, as we found out later, had other expenses that didn't really easily show up in the balance sheet that we don't have access to. And so it was like the stadium and moving costs and other stuff. But yeah, like there were some, Edmonton I really thought should have spent some more money last year.
Sneak preview, Rockville we're not going to be saying the same thing about Rockville this year.
Right, yeah. I don't get to sneak for anybody. I think everybody's pretty aware of it. It's like the one free agent everybody gave a crap about. Like it was literally like one guy that probably 12 teams probably wanted. I don't know how many put bids on him, but like, yeah.
And he went in the first one too. He went day one.
By the way,
which
is weird, right? When you come in with money like that, though, sometimes they just do. The weird thing though is that, and I think it reflects in this free agency, and just that there were so many old guys. Payrolls are down a little bit. Like when I made a list of like everybody's budget and then everybody's budget room. Related to their payroll, and payrolls are actually kind of down. There's a bunch of teams that are usually right up at the cap that are not, including like Las Vegas isn't. I've got a $75 million payroll, which is just bizarre for me. But budgets are up.
You mean you got $25 million to spend on first baseman and DHs? Come on, Ted, up your game.
Yeah, exactly, right. And that was the thing. It was just nothing to spend. I have the budget room. I went and spent another ungodly amount of money on international free agency because it's even.
I saw you bombed. You stole some of my guys that I tried to go sneak under the radar. You said
I don't know how I'm going to play all those guys, but anyway.
They're international free agents. You got 6 years to figure it out.
Budgets are up, by the way, which is kind of cool. So it was weird. Budgets went up and spending went down, and I don't know that I can blame anymore because there's no one to spend it on. By the way, congratulations. Your budget's $100 million. Has that ever happened before?
I know. Well, it started off at 84, then it went to 92, and this year it's at 100, and I'm projected to go up to, I think, 104 next year.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Which is, I mean, I'll be honest, when I started, the new budget kicked in January 1. Like, I was still 92 at the start of free agency.
He liked you so much, he gave you more money? That's nice.
In the middle of free agency, which, I mean, I wasn't going to spend it, because I have so many of my own guys I'm going to have to re-sign, but I wasn't going to blow it all on free agents, but that was a nice little pleasant surprise for...
Yeah, and, I think part of the problem with this is there's a lack of talented players hitting free agency, and one of the things that's happened, and talk to Fred about this a little bit, in the last version or two of OOTP, it's been really easy to extend your guys. It seems every year there's one or two teams. I think it was who was it on Vegas this year where they couldn't believe the contract they took, and you have
Romero. It's Romero.
Yeah, and you have I can't believe you have Gilstrom, and nobody could believe the contract Gilstrom took. And I'm extending all my players, and I'm just wondering if it's gotten too easy to extend your own players.
Well, I'll give John credit. He did the Gilstrom contract. I re-signed Lacaz.
Right, and that's not bad. I mean, it's.
No, but and I also knew that, speaking of the lack of depth of free agents, Jenkins, I'm sure this was the topic of conversation with Fred, him getting $22 million is almost asinine.
Yeah, it's...
And so, but if he was getting 22, and Lacaz you can argue, is he as good as Jenkins or is he not? He's in the realm. Like, they're in the same, category of players. He may not be getting 22, but he would be getting 18 to 20, and I just couldn't afford that in free agency, so I extended him maybe a little more than I would have liked. But I paid him an average of like 13.
Yeah, I just feel like years ago you couldn't do this. Like your players would ask for, if they wanted an extension, it would be near what their free agent cost would be. And then I think two things have happened. I think, one, the asking prices in free agency have gotten ridiculous. And I don't know what internal math is causing that to happen, if that's an OOTP thing, or if it's specific to our budgets. Like, is there a combination of they're just looking at the amount of budget space we have available, so we ask for this amount? But, like, the free agent asking prices, especially before, January 1 rolls around, have gotten just out of control. And then, two, we're able to extend our own guys for so much less than what their old free agent asking prices would have been, that I think it's just really siphoning off the free agent classes, which is okay. It's not like it's not as much fun, for free agency, but it makes you do other things. So it's just, there's always... league's always...
It also stops people from making bad decisions.
Well...
people I found make far worse decisions in free agency than they do in extending their own guys.
They do, but I like when people are making bad decisions in free agencies because I'm cheap. I don't, and not because I'm some genius, but just because I'm cheap and I won't pay that much. So, like, it's good for me when people...
I can't... I'm not sure I've signed a single, big name... I don't think I've signed a free agent to fill any significant role on my team since I took over.
No, and, last year I tried, and it's backfired horribly, so I learned my lesson. Every 5 or 6 years, I do it, and then I'm like, oh, this is why I never play in free agency. Let's get going with the actual teams. We'll start with Atlantic City. I kind of wrote down a list of what I thought every team needed, and then the players they got, and we'll just kind of do it that way. So I thought Atlantic City, they really needed a right fielder and a first baseman, and
they got neither.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. It's not the worst thing ever. They signed Esteban Gil, who is falling apart, as we speak. Fingernails are falling off, and then one of his fingers just falls to the ground, and pretty soon he won't have an arm at all. But
if they plan on him starting, by the way, that's going to be an issue.
Well, I think the thing there is that he might pay for himself. He's still popular, and he only got $1.5 million. So if that's the whole reason, is to just put butts in the seats, it's not a bad move. It doesn't really hurt him.
Yeah, and it's just a true 1-year deal, right? There's no
right. Although I was looking at
it's an extra million if he throws 50 innings, so I'm guessing he's not going to be starting.
Right. Yeah. Sebastian Durand used to be a good reliever. Maybe a little bit high for what he is now, but it's not. He's somebody that can still play a little bit. It's not a horrible gamble.
There were worse guys getting paid $2 million. To put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Jose Gutierrez. Like 5.75. Is that what my writing says? I don't bro.
Yeah, 5.75 with an opt out, and then he has an opt out and then a team option. Both for this, it's a 2-year deal, but the player Gutierrez can opt out, or Josh can take him for 4.5 next year.
Right, and Gutierrez. Am I missing something? Like, I just don't think he's any good at all.
I mean, he's competent, but I mean, not. If he had signed Durant's contract, maybe even a little more, okay, fine. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I shouldn't say he's not any good at all, but he's like a league average reliever for $5 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the guy you spend like $2. If you spend $2 on him, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll let you speak on Del Yal since that's your.
Yeah, I think that's also one that's not a big fan of. Like, I get that. Like, I think the mistake you can make with him.
Well, he's your old guy.
Yeah,
so you know
he was going to get 4.5 an ARB from me, and I said no.
And he ended up getting 4.6. So congratulations.
And it's a 1-year deal, and he'll be arbitratable after this. So it has its own built-in extensions. And if you look at his performance, it actually doesn't look too bad. Last year doesn't really count because he only had 32 plate appearances. But in 31, he actually was like, if he's that batter, if he is a league average bat, that's actually better than league average. I don't know why that OPS plus is only 101 for that batting line. If he hits like that, he's worth
because there's no power. That's why
he's worth every penny of that contract. Or maybe, but he won't. I don't think he is that hitter. I think he is the 75 OPS plus or like the 80 OPS plus, and he's a good glove at second, but he can't really play short. He doesn't have the arm or the range. He's limited to only being a second baseman, and they don't necessarily have a problem at second base. Derek Kennedy can play second base. He's not as good of a defender, but he is definitely
he won't embarrass himself out there.
A better hitter, and Bucky Dornster is one of the good underrated players in the league at third, so it's not like they have anywhere to even play Dalyell. So that's a weird spend of a $4.5 million combined with the Gutierrez. It's kind of like, but they're 1-year deals, so it's not like he hurt himself forever. They're just odd, you know.
Well, Atlantic City, as we discussed in other podcasts, has a money crunch,
right?
Because they've got $75 million invested in 3 pitchers.
Right, and I don't know what they would do otherwise. It's not like they were going to be able to add a starter with the money, with the room they had, or, their relievers, I think, are okay. Yeah, they could have used a relief arm, so that's what they should have done, is spend that money.
Well, they tried with a couple guys.
Well, so. Maybe they missed out, and that's what happened, but it seems like you take the Dalyell money and the Gutierrez money, and you go get Bob Sanderson, and you're a better team.
Well, and if they need a starter, they had one in Jacobs who got 1.7 for 3 years. Well, with 2 team options for $2 million after that from Des Moines, and he was basically a league average starter last year.
Right, but the thing we don't know about it is timing, right? Timing, and it's hard to look at what the offers were and when they were in, and so sometimes it just works out funny. So anyway, this isn't like a disastrous free agency for Atlantic City, but I don't think they really helped themselves much. I don't think they hurt themselves much. I think their window is, if not shut, then virtually. I mean, get ready.
This is it. If it's not shut, it will be after this year.
Time to million calls about Dan Cannon. That's what this year is going to be. Dan Cannon available? When are you gonna sell Dan Cannon? That's what we're going to be hearing.
Yeah. Yes.
So Brooklyn's next.
Hey, look, more old starters that they signed for the second year in a row.
What else could you do? Right?
I guess last year,
a starting pitcher. I mean, Brooklyn needed an ace, and there was only one ace available, and they didn't get him. That's not their fault. Only one team could get that guy, and Aaron just literally threw gold bricks at the guy. So it's not. I don't beat up anybody for not getting the one ace that was available.
And Tavio last year was an ace, but I think you bet on that?
And I think they're paying for last year's performance a little bit, but you know what? 14.5 with a vesting option for 13, that's not bad. I actually like that deal only because in a weak free agent class, they got a guy who looks like someone who can pitch and has been able to pitch in the past and just came off a great year. You could have seen somebody throwing 18 for 5 at Tavio stupidly. Like that's not a stretch.
I mean, last year Tavia was a steal for Justin. This is fair.
Yeah, it may be a little more than fair, but I think it's a free agent price that you end up paying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I mean, last year we loved that signing. If you remember, that was like the one we.
Yep.
But I mean, we didn't. I mean, I like it. It's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought too. And I thought they also needed a first base and right field. I thought those were their other big needs, and I don't know they were able.
Well, Workman.
What?
Workman.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Another guy that you know very well.
I'm looking at his spring training-ish roster, and it looks like he's going to play Workman at second, which is a horrible idea because Workman can't play second anymore. But he can play first base, and he's not going to hit for power. But you know what? He can still run a little bit, and he's still just an on-base machine. You'll have to platoon him, but it's the thing with that
Brooklyn platoons more than anybody else.
Yeah, so he'll be fine. The thing with that Workman deal is it's a little scary. It's a little long. The 6'5" is an okay amount for him, but then it escalates. And after that 2037 season, I think he's like 36 or 37 years old at the end of that. But
that's a team option. He's got a team option for year 5.
No, the 20. I think he plays 2037 at 37 years old for like most of the.
Yeah.
No, 35. Yeah, he'll
turn. No, 36 because he'll turn 33 right before this season.
Right, and that's the. He's declined a little bit. I think the last guaranteed year of this contract is going to be pretty ugly, and he really shouldn't be playing second base anymore. I know it says 7. But he just can't he doesn't have the range to get to anything. He was pretty bad for me 2 years ago, and he was not good enough to warrant, honestly, I guess if he can be like a 940, 950 efficiency, if you want to just say that you're going to have a negative 10 zone rating at second, which I wouldn't necessarily advise, but if you could do a negative 10 and hit the way he hits, that might actually be an okay player. I don't know.
And he's not stupidly overpaying.
No, he's not. I think it's not a bad move, and I really hope they play him at first, because I think they've got the other infielders to fill out their infield reasonably well. Jorge Martinez was horribly overpaid for a long time, and finally went mercifully to free agency, and I actually think he got a great deal to be the right-handed half of a platoon for a right fielder. I thought that was a nice, solid little pickup there. Anastasio Santana is a utility guy at this point. Reynaldo Garza. I don't know if he has anything left in the tank, but that's not a horrible deal for somebody to see if they have anything left in the tank. Well,
yeah, I mean, he did okay. He didn't embarrass himself last year in Edmonton.
Right. Which, that's something for itself, right? It's Edmonton, and you were somehow productive.
Three with the team option for 3. And let's face it, a closer in Edmonton wasn't getting a ton of work. No offense, Brandon.
Right. And it's hard to, it's hard to know what to do with these one-pitch guys, right? Because he's got that 5 cutter. Cutters do seem to play up a little bit, but he's still got a monster curve, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and who knows? I don't know what's going to happen there. But I think they did okay. I think this was a reasonable free agency for them. They needed better players, but the players weren't there, and they didn't hurt themselves.
The big thing for him was getting out from that Chandler deal.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Blackwell, I think he did well to avoid that, because I think at this point he's somehow managing to fall off a cliff before he hits the age of 30.
It happens sometimes, right? And I think not keeping Blackwell around and paying him the money he wanted, I agree. I think was a good move. So yeah, this is one of those free agencies where it's just hard to get excited about a whole lot because there just weren't too many players to share. Which is kind of what happened to Charm City. Theme continues, right? They needed they needed first base, second base, starting pitching.
They tried with the pitching,
and they need backups.
They tried.
So, what do you think about those tries with the pitching?
I think Habermas he's listed as a free agent signing. He was their own guy last year, so I don't know if that really counts. But I mean, that's a decent 4 or 5 guy. Teams have done and continue to play worse in that spot.
I don't know. I think he could really suck this year. He's lumped a little bit. He's finally starting to age. He could be okay. I mean, he pitched okay last year.
Yeah, and they're only giving him $1.5 million.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair.
I mean, at this point, he knows exactly what he's getting with him. He's had him for a while now, so
yeah.
Here's $1.5 million, and if you struggle, then I'm gonna let you go.
Right. And then
I mean, he kind of got screwed because I think he traded for Sutton last year with the intention of re-signing him,
and he probably asked for
and then he went.
Wait.
Then he went and blew out his arm and he's out for the next 8 months.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's out until what, September?
Yeah.
He's out for the whole season at this point. So that kind of put a crimp in any. I mean, he's another guy that his window is probably. I mean, he's got talent, but not a lot of depth.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of his players have gotten expensive, and he just can't fill the holes as they inevitably come up. Like Steve Russell he could be okay, $1.5 million. He could be okay as a reliever. Took a flyer on Lawrence Hernandez for $900K. It's not unreasonable. Randall Thomas is another. Hey, he could be okay. The one thing about the Randall Thomas deal is why not take a couple? He's 31. Why not take a couple of those cheapo options on him?
I know we were talking about this last year.
I learned from you last year.
You did. Apparently, some of the other teams didn't.
Yeah, that's where. I actually did a couple guys. I was like, you know what, just sign him for $1 million options right after that.
The tricky thing is, I mean, depending on how big you go with the options, like I forget who it was, but somebody was getting paid like 10, and then like the last year is a team option of like 19.
Right.
Which, first of all, should probably be illegal because you know what I mean? They clearly have no intention of picking up that option.
Well, it all should be illegal, but there probably should be some sort of like minimum buyout associated with the dollar value of an option. Like if it's
Well, and I think Matt said that. In the next 19. But it's also like, I mean, the one thing it does do is it ties up, if you're close to the cap, it does tie up your cap space until you can officially decline that option.
Right. Which, I don't know.
But I mean, for some teams, that's not an issue. You know what I mean?
No. And Charm City, I mean, they signed German Perez back to kind of who they signed. It was, I don't know that I would pay that guy $2.5 million, but they had to find somebody to plug in the infield. They need some backups. Alberto Padilla looks like he can back up catcher pretty well. I actually kind of like that one. He does have an option on him, a reasonable price. I think this is just, I remember Brandon saying that he did miss on. I mean, there were players that he was in on and he missed, and he was judging by some of the guys that I sign on other teams with the team option, player option, no buyout, and team option, no buyout, and Heim team option, no buyout, and he was the one that made that comment. If he had gotten the guys that were, I think, the guys that he was annoyed by that whole process with, he would look a lot better than he does. And unfortunately, there just weren't enough players to go around this year, and he just kind of probably ran into one of those timing free agencies where he just got beat up a little bit. But also, you can come back with that, well, he's got some higher priced guys, and he let them all get expensive at the same time, and he doesn't have the money to fill his holes, and that is on him. That's his cross to bear there.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the Padilla thing, that's not bad for him, but then you look at who he lost in Sam Adams as a catcher.
Right.
And I like Adams as a better player, and they've got roughly the same price. Adams even a little cheaper.
Right. And what you also do, again, was that timing, or was that when they signed differently? Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe he just thought you couldn't get him for that price. I'm not sure. Maybe he didn't want to come back. Maybe he rode the pine all last year and got annoyed and wouldn't go back to Charm City.
Yeah, there's that too.
Well, here we go. Of that we
don't. Well, first of all, you're skipping me who signed nobody.
I did. Oh, you know what? I totally skipped teams. Yeah, my notes are all messed up. I lost my mind while I was doing this because I tried to do too many podcasts in a row again. Yeah, thank you for not signing any players. It's always wonderful when I go to a team and there's nothing to review and I can move right on.
I gave you and Tyler some minor material for the trade podcast, but not even much there, frankly.
No, I thought you needed to improve your relief pitching, and I thought you needed to improve second base, and you addressed your relief pitching through trades. And you have not really addressed second base, but realistically, you have okay options there. They're no good. I shouldn't say that. That makes no sense. They're not going to wow you with the bat, but you do not need offensive production at second base with the rest of your lineup.
I've got Tovar slotted in there and hitting in the 9th spot. So.
Right, and that's fine. That is not ideal.
He's not going to be a superstar with the glove, but he won't embarrass himself.
Right.
He's not going to be a superstar with the bat. He won't embarrass himself.
And he is a fan favorite and babe magnet, according to his bio.
Yep.
Which.
Yep. He is there to just be that guy.
Yeah. He doesn't. I mean,
you don't know.
This must be a really bad picture of him. He doesn't particularly kind of look like a babe magnet. He actually.
Well, keep in mind, it's Cuba.
Well, I don't know. He still doesn't. I mean,
but,
I've seen some good-looking Latino men, and.
All right, hold on. You're actually going to make me go look at. Hold on a second.
I mean, he's not bad looking. He's just kind of like, he's kind of bland. Like he's like the little bit of a vapid, like kind of one of those 1,000-yard stares though. That makes you wonder if he's like if this guy was the janitor that turned out to be a serial killer. Like I wouldn't be surprised. That's like kind of.
No. Yeah.
I don't know. Babe magnet, huh?
Hey, whatever works, right?
Well, it must be his fashion sense. That's what we're going with there. This is pointless and stupid. Hawaii. Hawaii's needs. Under needs for Hawaii, I wrote needs time for minor leaguers to develop. That's what Hawaii needs. I don't think that they have any set of needs that they could address in this or any free agency to be competitive. They need too many things, and
So in that vein, they kind of did the right thing by not spending a ton of money on guys.
Bingo. That's where I was going to go. They plugged some holes with some players on 1 to 2 year deals, all for $2-ish million. Jesus Feliciano might be able to pitch and throw some relief innings anymore. Who knows? He's
been there too. That's one of those weird ones where it was their own guy that they let get the free agency and then sign back.
Right, and he's hurt. He might come back from that okay. He might not. Jorge Sierra is not exciting, but again, they needed a first baseman with Wilcox going away, and he is a first baseman. And Martin McCarty, he might be able to play. You know, again, this was a biding time. Don't hurt yourself free agency, and they did a good job.
And then in the same vein, their bullpen needed some help, so they got those guys plus a few Rule 5 guys. Throw some darts at the wall, maybe one of them sticks.
Yeah,
and you got something. Who knows?
Well, I don't think they've got something. I think they've got not terrifyingly bad, but I don't think there's a set of circumstances that can make them competitive this year.
Well, but I think Mike knows that. He's not.
He does, which is and sometimes what you do is you don't kill yourself when that happens with a ridiculous deal that makes no sense. Huntsville.
Yep, because I mean the top
moving
three.
On. Would you like to?
So, I mean, I've looked at this, and I've looked at these signings sober, and I've looked at these signings drunk, and they don't make sense either way.
Yeah.
I mean,
so where we I hope Huntsville just kicks the shit out of us and makes us look like assholes. Because I don't
because they're in my division.
Oh, okay.
You can cheer for that all you want, not me.
I don't know.
But I mean, I know we're sticking most of the free agency, but the Dades signing looks genius in comparison to picking up Juan Hernandez on waivers. I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well,
especially because last year
somebody's got to pitch, right? Like,
but do you have to pay them $15 million?
What else is he going to spend the money on? Juan Hernandez.
Just don't spend the money.
Well, but you do lose it. It doesn't just I mean, you can only bank $40 million in bonus funds.
Well, but I'm thinking that he may not have butts in this, and that Hernandez deal is what, 5 more years?
Yeah, and I at this point, I am convinced that Juan Hernandez's previous success was a product of Vancouver's park and being younger. And at 30, he is a
30 and getting $15.5 million for the next 4 years, guaranteed, with no options either way.
See, but he's not going to compete. Like Huntsville's not going to compete in the next 3 years. So I actually don't I don't dislike that as much as I dislike Datis, because he won't play until midseason, and the last time he had a major injury, he lost all of his ability to pitch, at least according to ratings. Now, somehow, he threw 116 innings of 3.25 ERA ball last year, and I don't know how that happened. And it wasn't just BABIP luck. I mean, he didn't allow home runs with a 5 movement.
He was a legitimately good
and
pitcher.
He didn't walk anybody with a 2.8. He didn't walk anybody with a 5 control, and he struck out 10 an inning, which is the only thing that makes sense with his ratings. He is an extreme fly ball pitcher, so I don't know if there's like in New Orleans, like everything just he just popped everybody up. I don't know how his season last year happened. Like he just defies his ratings, and I realize that they actually have to go out there and perform, but to give that guy $10 million until he is 37 or 38 years old, and he's going to take that player option. That's the other thing that drives me nuts about this is like, why are we giving a 38 or 38-year-old player a player option to pick up? Like, it's already declining. Like, what's to be gained? Just give him the guaranteed year. Like, I mean, don't give him the guaranteed year, but like, I don't know. The only way I could hate this contract more if it was escalating salaries. That would make me hate the contract more.
They were giving away players last year.
Yeah.
I would say selling, but that would imply that they got fair return. They did.
The defense of the Dottie's contract is that he is still massively popular, and that will help. That probably did help the fan interest, but I don't know.
But we were talking about Atlantic City doing that, and the guy paying for himself with $1.5 million.
Well, that's the point. I feel like you could have. I don't know if anybody else was bidding on Dottie's. Like, I think you could have gotten him for $3 million.
I don't know about that low, but they probably could have gotten him for 6.
Would you have given him 6? With a rotator cuff, with a Tommy John? He's out with a Tommy John. He's got a wrecked injury proneness. This is his second straight season-ending injury, and last time he had one, it destroyed him. Like
I wouldn't have given him 6, but I bet somebody would have given him 5, so you probably would have had to give him 6 to match it, especially because he would have had to pay the I'm a bad team tax.
Yeah, we're piling on Scott Murphy, though. I think it's making me feel like a jerk. It means I need to drink.
I know, but at the same time,
it means I need to drink more so that I lose my remorse.
Well, and not only that, we're fair. We pile on people who we don't think, have done a good job in the topics that we're talking about.
Yeah, and I am perfectly open to piling on when it's proven that I've made a mistake. Like, people can just kick me in the nuts about signing Fernando Moreno, a lefty power hitter, to the park where lefty power hitters don't work. I don't like that's.
Oh yeah, that was I agree. And we tried to set up a whole podcast where Brett could pile on me for, in his opinion, being an idiot. So I'm clearly willing to take a few shots.
Yeah, I know. I just feel bad when I'm doing it. Let's go on to the other people. Raul Miranda looks kind of like a quad A guy. He's 26. He can defend. It's kind of interesting that he's never been developed at shortstop. I mean, his turn double play isn't very good, but you wonder if it would have gotten better if he'd ever gotten any minor league time there. Yeah, he's okay.
That's better than the Wellington signing they did last year.
Right. I mean, Miranda could be a reasonable utility guy. That's not bad. We skipped needs. Yeah. Huntsville's needs include an ace, a bullpen, a first baseman, a catcher, a third baseman, a right fielder, a center fielder, and rebuilding. Those are the needs.
Well, you could argue they attempted to do the ace, kind of.
Yeah. Twice. They did need warm bodies. I mean, yeah. I don't blame a guy for getting warm bodies. And honestly, as much as we're ripping on these contracts, I really don't think it's going to hurt them too much in the long run, because it's not like they're spending money that they were going to do something else that would have made them a contender with. That's
fair. We were talking about last year criticizing teams for not spending money when they had the room.
Right.
I think there's a difference.
There's a difference. But it's not like they didn't need damage. This is a team that will not be competitive for 3 to 4 seasons. And anything you do now is fair game.
At least, because their minors aren't that great either.
The most damage Huntsville can do to themselves is to make moves that sap their fan base, that kill their revenue stream, because they have a good revenue stream. And really what they need to be doing is accruing talent while keeping that revenue stream going. And so from that standpoint, these moves aren't too bad. They're just curious.
But the thing is, I get signing guys like Dottie's and picking up somebody like Hernandez if they can be flipped later on.
Right.
I don't see anybody trading for those deals.
Right. And that's the thing, that's the one thing that you could do with the money that would be productive is sign a guy to flip. But realistically, that's harder than we make it sound.
It absolutely is. But at the same time, it's you at least give yourself a shot at it.
Right. All right. So,
like the Sun. Oh, I guess there's a team coming up in a little bit that I'll talk about that maybe did exactly that.
Nashville?
Yep.
Yeah, you know who did that?
Yeah, was that Rex?
That was Rex. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that's the spoiler alert. Good job,
I figured
Rex.
it was.
Rex good, guys. Everybody, Rex knows what he's doing. Didn't know if that was a question anyone had. All right, Jacksonville. Jacksonville had no money, and they didn't really need anything. And they signed Arturo Cruz.
Yeah, they did. They did all their business in trading.
So, Arturo Cruz, did you look at this contract? This is one of those ones where I think that Slock, it's Slock, that's how you pronounce his last name. They told me, and I remembered. I think this is one of those deals that made his head explode.
Well, because I think Cruz was his guy.
Cruz was his guy, and I bet you he was trying to get him back, but instead he probably offered him a reasonable deal, but instead Arturo Cruz signed a 1-year deal for $1 million with 2 team options for 5 with no buyout. So he signed a 1-year deal for $1 million.
That kind of goes into what I was talking about earlier too, where you
shouldn't be able to offer that contract, and I'm not beating up on Tyler for it like he's a jerk. Tyler is offering a contract that the game will allow you to offer. He is doing what you can with the system, but
Tyler worked the system perfectly, and it's not even the buyouts that have me. It's the offering insane amounts of money that you clearly have no intention of paying.
Right, and that the game doesn't recognize that. Like a team option with no buyout should be considered by the AI algorithm $0. Or not, maybe not 0, but like it should consider that to be like maybe like a future incentive of a 1 million maybe. Like you might get like, but the idea that you'll take a contract where it'd be one thing if the first year was 5 million. The first year is $1 million. Or
even if it was 4, you know what I mean? Even if it's like 4 and then I don't want to give him a raise. Like, sorry, I'm going to let him go.
Right. Yeah. Now, that being said, I'm pretty sure Arturo Cruz is garbage. His ratings don't look like garbage. He's got a great fastball. He's a great ground ball guy. He's got great control, but he sure has not been able to pitch. So I'm not sure this really matters too much at all. Like he's got a career FIP of 5. That is not good. I don't know what else you say about that.
No. And I'm guessing he's going to take the Mark Totten role of slipping back and forth between the rotation and the long relief spot when Tyler inevitably has 3 guys go down with pitching injuries every year.
Yeah. Well, it's not. This is a fine move. Again, Cruz should fire his agent, and this is that is by far the most ridiculous contract I've ever seen. And I think there's been some other ones I just haven't been around for him, but that is ridiculous. Like that is, I don't know if I just see Tyler doing like the Mr. Burns excellent when he saw that signing, some sort of evil genius.
And then he had to be laughing when he saw Brandon talking about it.
Yeah. And those guys get along fine. So, it's all fair love and war in fantasy baseball. But, it's just such a ridiculous deal. Okay, Vegas. Yeah. Vegas had no needs. And they didn't sign anyone. And their team is amazing, and they're only paying $95 million this year. And I just...
and they're going to lose in the Doubleday round for the 500th straight year.
Right, exactly. But, that's... they're just... Vegas is going to be exciting in about 2 seasons, because these guys are going to get old, and it'll be interesting to see how Rec reloads. But for right now, they're the team that they've been for a while, and they will continue to be that team. And,
I think that the top of the Johnson South kind of solidified ourselves, the top 3 of.
I disagree with you because we're going to get to that. But anyway.
Oh, well, let me rephrase that. The top 2 solidified ourselves.
I disagree even more. But
well then,
that's all I have to say about that. But actually, it's not really. That's all I have to say about Vegas. Montreal. Montreal's next.
Yeah, they are constantly looking for pitching, and made it. I mean, we were talking about Gomez being the one guy who was clearly the front of this class, but I think Tanch was probably the head of the second group.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal for him either, right? Like I think it was Tyler that said he was surprised he went for that, but I kind of agree.
It's not a bargain, but you definitely, I would have expected him to be in the 14 to 15 realm instead of the 11 to 12.
And he's a number 3 starter at this point in his career, but heck, I'll free agent $12 million for a number 3 starter and a good number 3 starter. Like, okay.
You can win Atlantis with him as your number 3 starter.
Absolutely. It's been done, right? So
twice.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Montreal, typically I don't see Callahan doing a whole lot of like he's really, I just don't feel like he's that active in free agency ever. It seems like he's so good at flipping players and building one from within. I can't remember the last time I've seen him sign multiple players that I thought would even matter, because he just doesn't usually need to. But the Bob Sanderson deal, that's not bad either. I know nobody likes to pay closers that much money, but it's short. It's not like he's paying him $9 million for 5 years. He's basically saying, you know what, I think Sanderson can be good for the next 2 years. And he is an elite closer.
And it even drops it next year. It's 8.
Right. Jeremy Carter, that's a reasonable deal for a backup. The interesting one, again, is we were talking last year about Long Beach signing Atlio Seabra, and he did not work out for them. But I am going to do the stupid thing here and double down and go, I still think this is a good signing.
You do or you don't?
I do. $4.5 million if you got it to spend for a guy who, he can make a little contact, he walks a little bit, he's got huge power, and he can play every position except center field, like he and shortstop. Like he can play everywhere. And whether that's he's just going to be your half of a platoon that plays everywhere, or you're going to get him more regular stuff, I just think this is a deal you can get value out of.
It'll be interesting to see if he hits that vesting option.
I don't think he will, and if he does, I think you'd be happy with it, right? Like if you got 600 plate appearances out of him, clearly you did it on purpose. So
it's 450. The option's at 450.
Right. But I mean, if he goes over that, you're probably playing him every day because he's producing. So
yeah. And then I think they're also a big winner because they did not pay Ken Jenkins $22 million a year.
Right. Although I'm sure it hurts. I'm sure it hurt John a little bit to let Jenkins go. I mean, he was really the last. He had a group of all those guys that looked exactly like that. Like 9 contacts, 5-eye, doesn't strike out, a little bit of power but not much, and they just got on base constantly for him. And he had so many of those dudes. But that generation guys has kind of moved out.
Well, and if there's one thing we know about John, he is not sentimental.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. No feelings.
I mean, look at what he got rid of Gilstrom when everybody thought, you know what I mean?
Oh, well, everybody didn't think. Once he put Gilstrom on the block like the year prior, I was like, well, Gilstrom's going to be gone. It's John. He will get a king's ransom for the guy.
Which he did.
Yep.
Which he did from some.
Yeah, his pitching's going to be good, huh? How you feeling about Kondo?
Well, I'm glad because he wanted either Rafael or Kondo, and I made the choice to.
Well, you kept the right one, but Kondo's going to pitch this year, and he'll be pretty damn good. I mean, Montreal looks good.
Oh,
they didn't really need to sign anybody.
He will.
But.
Yes, he will. And Kondo was the piece that put that one over the edge. I might have gotten him without Kondo, but once I threw him in, that was the ball game.
Well, I think it's going to work out okay for both of you, but. Anyway, I thought Montreal had a pretty good free agency. Like, it's not like they got better and they didn't need to, and like
they did what they needed. They didn't spend. I mean, they spent a little bit of money, but not obscene amounts. And I mean, they're paying Tanch and Sanderson what Jenkins got from Long Beach.
Right, so yeah, moving on to Nashville, which I think Ben kind of got busy again, and maybe we'll see Ben T again someday, probably. But it sounds like Recht kind of took over free agency late in the show for him before I think it's Joe Peters has that franchise now. Welcome, Joe.
Joe Joseph. I don't know what he's going by, but welcome.
Yeah. Sorry you kind of ran into a team that's been kind of moribund for a while, but I think it finally has a little bit of a farm system, and Recht did some work for you. So this is take note, bad teams. this is what you do.
You sign a whole bunch of guys. If they signed 12 guys?
I don't know. I was cruising through this group, and then I got to Nashville and saw who all they signed, and I went and poured myself another drink and took a shower, and then I came back.
I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at the summary. 13 additions, but one of those was a waiver signing. So 12 free agents.
There's a theme.
For a total of 3.6 WAR.
So let's just start. Nick Sutton is not going to pitch for a while. He's not going to pitch at all this year.
That was the one contract I didn't get because
I wonder if Rick just missed it. If he didn't know that he was out the whole year, because why give him a player option for next year? It's kind of weird.
I would have done, if you want to do that, basically do 3 years with a player option.
Right.
It's like eat this year.
Or 1 year with 2 team options. Or 2 years with a team option or player option. But or just straight
2 years. If you want to make it basically a 1 year deal, just give it a straight 2 years with no options. Like,
right. But it's not
look, I'm eating this.
Yeah, it's an odd contract.
No, that's a flip. That's a flippable deal.
Well, is it? I wouldn't take that for anything, because you don't know how he's going to come back, and why would you just guarantee yourself paying $7.5 million next year? Either, if you trade for Sutton, you're either going to guarantee that you're paying $7.5 million on a gamble that may not be any good, and Sutton, frankly, has outpitched his ratings in Atlantic City. He was terrible when he went to Charm City last year. And or the other option is you traded an asset and he walks. So I don't know that it is a flippable deal. It's a bit odd. But it's as we just praised Recht, and then we're like, I don't know that did he just miss that he was injured or.
Well, and I mean, also if it's a bad deal, it's not a terribly priced bad deal.
No, exactly. It's cheap. It's kind of curious, but it's not horrible. It'll be interesting to see what Recht has anything to say about that one in particular. He probably has some brilliant master plan that I'm unaware of. But then you've got guys like Oliver Medrano, who, can be the right-handed half of a platoon, either hit a weak second base or first base. He can still get on base a little bit. And there's a theme here. He's popular. He only made $1 million. Antonio Sanchez. This is great. This is so good. There's a couple of bad teams that could have just used a good hitter who is just fans will come see Antonio Sanchez play. And he's paying him $4.5 million with a good vesting option. We can just keep going with this. Joe Wilcox, another popular older player. He can still hit lefties. He can hit righties, maybe okay, but there's maybe some DH, some first base role. Popular guy. He's getting a little more money at $5.5 million, but that's not too bad.
But unlike Sanchez, he can still play the field.
Right.
Kinda.
Maybe. Ron Whitney, another guy, popular, $900K. Manny Vargas, does he have anything left? I don't know, but a 1 year deal. Sunshine Rodriguez, still crazy popular. 1 year deal. Cheap. Rumba Castellanos, same deal. Wellington, maybe he hits. He signed a team. Sancho Delgado's the one that I think is tremendous. Another guy that's hurt, but he was a Halifax guy. He is still very popular there. He will pitch this year, and he got him for nothing.
Well, and that's a contract. That's a contract that makes sense for a guy. I mean, he's only going to miss the first month of the season.
Well, that's the contract structure you thought you'd see on Sutton, right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Maybe you're obviously have to pay Sutton more money, but that's the structure.
Right.
That makes sense.
This is sadly going to be the best team that Nashville has fielded in 3 or 4 years. Because you know what?
It's still going to finish in last place.
Right,
probably.
But these guys are actually big leaguers. And this is the difference that these teams that tear it down to nothing, that they sell every asset, always screw up and miss out on, and why it delays rebuilds, is, yes, these guys aren't that good, but they are big leaguers. Fans will come to see them, and when Nashville's trying to compete, they will already have revenue. They're not going to have to waste 2 years of their cost-controlled young players building a revenue stream. Those guys will step in. So they have a fan interest, and Nashville has they've got a max size fan base. They had a budget of $95 million which basically means those fans weren't coming. If they had even like an 80 fan interest, they should have a much, much higher budget. Now their fan interest is 96, so that's what these signings did. They nearly maxed their fan interest out with these signings.
Well, there's a phrase that I enjoy. These guys are professional baseball players.
Right. Absolutely. That's the difference. Is if when your team has nothing, when you go through a phase like Nashville is where they are because they've had so many different GMs and they've never had a plan. But a lot of teams are going to go through a point where they're the bottom feeder, where they're just waiting for the young guys.
Havana says hi from the islands.
Right. But what you do when you're there is this: you put professional baseball players out. People you don't sign them to stupid because you could do this, and if you signed all these guys to 4-year deals and paying them double their value, that cancels out the whole effectiveness of signing them, you know what I mean, in the first place. Right. And this was a weird year because it was a bad free agency and nobody signed anyone forever, so all of these guys were available. You're not going to get 13 guys. But every one of these teams that's putting a bunch of AAA and Quad A guys out there when they're rebuilding could sign 5 of these guys every year for $1 to $2 million and actually have fans show up to the ballpark.
Well, and I know Rex signed them all in the same sim because there was no export for Ben the entire free agency.
Right. So
it's not like they even spread these guys out and claim some early. And
no, they're there to be had every single year. And this is getting back to I think the hot word now in describing baseball or stealing it from somewhere else. The economic thing is market inefficiency. Or like where's the market inefficiency? What can you take advantage of? In fantasy baseball league, the market inefficiency is always, and it's not true for this group entirely. These guys aren't going to contribute a ton. Maybe one of them gets hot, or a couple of them get flipped. But it's always vets. It is always older veteran players because we just want that young guy that we can lock up and not worry about the position. Nobody wants to have to go back to the free agent well every year to sign a DH or a first baseman. But it is a place you can get a leg up because those guys are cheap.
Yeah. And you're trying that.
Yeah, no, I paid him a lot of money. It only counts as trying. Oh, you mean this year?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, this year I gave it.
But last year you didn't. Last year you didn't try.
Last year I made a mistake. That's okay. So, the guy who just totally signed a stupid contract just gave you a contract the season before, gave you a bunch of advice that you probably shouldn't listen to. But yep. So
no, you should listen to it. He just needs to listen to his own advice too.
I wanted Fernando Moreno to be good. Just wanted a good power hitter for once. And I should realize that until I change my park, I'm not allowed to have that.
Yeah.
New Orleans, right? I thought New Orleans needed middle infield, which was really hard to get in this free agency. A lot of teams that needed it did not get it. I don't necessarily blame them for that. And maybe some pitching. I don't know. They had some injuries. It's hard to tell. So that's what I thought.
I think their starting pitching's fine because they got some young guys coming up too.
Yeah,
they're fine.
I think it's fine. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I thought maybe it was more of a depth thing. Like maybe they just needed another arm. But maybe not. No, they're pretty good.
Like I said, yeah, they're in good shape there, and because I keep an eye on them because they're obviously my
this is why I think the top of your division has not solidified itself to two things. I think New Orleans is every bit as good as you are, and they were. I mean, they don't have the they don't have the sexy players you do, but
no, that's what I'm saying. The three, I consider it a big three in our division.
Yeah, you're missing one. We're gonna get to them.
It's San Antonio.
It's not San Antonio. There's only one left.
Are you on the Sean Marco train?
Dude, Sean Marco's team, yes. We're ruining this. Wait, they're not next. Give it 5 seconds.
They are next.
Yeah. So Francisco Flores, I thought was a good deal. Like, he's just he's a decent little player. 3 million. He's a good fourth outfielder. He can still field a little bit. And then I thought $4.4 million for Alfredo Chavez, whose nickname is just stupid. And I'm not an anti-cuss word guy at all. It's just, what a
I don't get it either.
Right. Yeah, it's an okay gamble. He might have nothing left, but he's been pretty good, and if he can pitch, $4 million not spending 1 year, that's reasonable. Quietly boring. Let's move on to Phoenix, because clearly you don't think that Phoenix is a competitor, and I am.
I know Phoenix in 2035 or 2036. Yes, what? Phoenix in 2034.
Phoenix in 2034 is good. Okay, we're switching from free agency because Phoenix didn't really need to sign a whole lot, and
they signed Manny Silva for what, $1 million.
Yeah, so whatever. Maybe he'll be their third baseman. Maybe he won't. They've got a couple other mediocre options that are just as good, but that's not going to hurt them. Let's move on to the team preview portion of this podcast. How do you not think they're competitive this year? So Ignacio Rodriguez, is he an ace? I don't know. Is he fine pitching at the front of your rotation? Fine. Jose Trujillo is great. He is. I don't know about great, but he's good. I'm perfectly happy with him as my number 2. Bob Corrigan is 20 years old and sure as hell can pitch. Harry Considine, okay, maybe not. But he's got 3. If he gets anything out of Villegas, I think Alexander Renard could be close to being ready. Bakitsky's a great reliever. Maybe he needs some bullpen help, but he's got, Adrian Garcia in the pen. He's got 2 or 3. He's got 3 good relievers. There you go. He's got 3 good starters, and he'll figure something out. And have you not looked at the lineup? Are you crazy? Like, Martinez can hit this year. I think you're just in denial. I think you just don't want to deal with it.
No, I mean, I'm prepared for Phoenix in 2035 to be a pain in my ass. But as of right now, I would take both mine and Vegas' lineup over Phoenix.
I think they're close enough that they can beat you this year. Are you guys better on paper right now? Yes, but these guys are young can be fully developed any day.
I think Phoenix will be over 500 this year. But the problem is, I think Vegas, Havana, and New Orleans are going to win 93 to 94 games each.
You guys will be a bloodbath pretty soon. I don't necessarily know that they're better. I think they're. I mean, Jesus, Bartolo Ortiz is frighteningly good.
Well, like I said, I mean, I'm fully prepared. I am mentally preparing for 2035 to be painful.
He has 5 hitters that are better than any hitter I've ever had.
Well,
not that that's saying much, but
well, and the sneaky guy that I'm not sure people are paying attention to is Thad Mayer. Mayer?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's paying attention to him. They should be.
They should.
No.
They should. Because unlike the rest of his hitters, that Mayer can play defense.
Yeah, he probably will have to move off center field eventually, but you'll get by with him there for now.
Well, and not only that, I mean, even at center field, I mean, the rest of this team they can't catch. I mean,
you're right. I guess that's going to hurt their pitching quite a bit because they're pretty bad everywhere.
I mean, it's just not good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know, man. This team's exciting though. I don't know if it'll matter. They're going to hit, when these guys are developed, they're going to get so many home runs. They're going to have like 8 regulars with a 9 or greater power rating.
Oh, what do you think? I mean, I think I feel bad for the pitching staffs in our division because between Vegas always has an offense. Phoenix has a scary offense. My offense is good. I mean, it's just going to be a slaughterfest.
Yeah. Yep. All right, back to free agency. We gotta wrap up because we're running toward the hour mark, and that's about the time where I just can't make Sycar rating not making any sense. We're close to the end here.
There's only 2 more teams.
There's only 2 more, and they didn't do a whole heck of a lot except. Well, they did. The
best player available.
The multitude of moves is not there, but the excitement factor for Rockville is. That's a lot of money to get Pep Gomez for Rockville.
Yeah.
I think it's what you do.
But,
I think it's the right move.
And he front-loaded it smartly.
Yeah, he's 34 though. I mean, this is the problem with this, and Enrique Gomez is durable, which is always helpful. He's held up a long time, and that's good. He hasn't had like those little minor declines so far that get you worried.
Well, but not only that, he not only is it structured smartly for Gomez, but he's structured it smartly so that when Gomez starts to decline in salary, the rest of his guys he has to pay him.
Right. Yeah, the structure of this contract is great. It's just a lot. I just don't know what else. I don't think there is something else that Aaron could have spent the money on that would have given the same kind of value. This was the piece, right? This is now he's got Gomez, Dempster, Coleman. You got Juan Perez in a 4 spot and George is in a 5 spot. that's a darn good staff for at least this year. You don't know how long it's going to hold up, and he's got his bats have come around. I think this was the right move. And only one guy could get Gomez, and Aaron went and got him.
Yep, and I mean, and in fairness, we're talking about it being a lot of money. It's less than what Ken Jenkins got, and I would much rather pay Enrique Gomez $127 million than Ken Jenkins $128.
Right? How is this different from we beat the pants off of Atlantic City, so let's be clear. How is this?
Well, well, they only signed one guy, not two.
So yeah, how is this different from Correa? And
well, but I'm looking at the structure of those deals before I comment. But like I said, for one thing, it's only one contract like this and not two. And it's less money, like overall. I mean, Correa was 144.
Yeah, okay, those deals are big.
And
Lopez
that one's
was 144.
I think they were matching. I think they were exactly the same. And this is year 3. And they're still paying $32 million. And also, the Gomez deal has team options, I believe.
Yep. And he's just
Whereas,
Lopez just has a player opt out after the 5th year, which probably won't happen.
Correa does the exact same.
Okay.
Those contracts were exactly the same.
So we're going with age, and Correa was younger, but he wasn't as good of a pitcher. And then Lopez, probably the same age, but just, and I think Lopez has had a little bit of decline already. I mean, that's the thing is, I'm much more happy making that gamble on an older player if their ratings have not budged than I am on somebody who's already lost a little bit of something.
So when are you going to pay Ricardo Diaz $100 million?
I already did.
That's fair.
Oh, I already did it. 3 or 4 years ago, I signed Diaz to an extension that paid him $25 in the first year and $22, and I think he is now down to, it's the 3rd year of a 6-year deal. He's down to 14. He's got 12 after that and 10 after that, and God, I hope he's retired by then.
Because you don't trust yourself not to give him another $50 million for 3 years.
I will give him whatever he asks for. He will he will pitch for me until he doesn't want to pitch anymore.
And then you'll hire him the day he retires as your pitching coach.
Correct. That is exactly.
At the major league. Forget at the major league level.
Oh, no, he goes to AAA to take over Gabriel Campos' job, who will get promoted to major league.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
This has all been planned out. I will.
You've got the master plan in place.
I do. So we got one team left. I think we both agree that Rockville. The other thing Rockville really could have used was a corner outfielder. They've got some holes. Their outfield's not great, but if you told me I could blow my wad on a corner outfielder or Enrique Gomez, I pick Enrique Gomez every time. So.
Well, they had the choice. Like I said, it was Jenkins or Gomez.
Yeah, and they made the right choice.
I think they made the right choice. Now, is it enough to get them in the playoffs?
Yeah, it is. Montreal's good. Jacksonville's good if they're healthy. That's always the scary thing with Jacksonville is they're probably good. Let's see, Carolina or Rockville. Sorry, Rockville is 3. I think Charm City I don't believe in them this year. I don't believe in Atlantic City. Nashville's out.
But then you got the big 3. Well, you got 2 wildcard teams out of the South.
Yeah,
and then, you're basically going Rockville, Phoenix, Charm City for that last spot.
Yeah, I give it to Rockville. Out of those,
I would tend to agree.
I think Rockville's got an easier road because of their division.
But Phoenix that being said, I don't think this move didn't get them locked into the playoffs. I think it gives them a leg up on the playoffs.
You know what? They don't have an easier road. You've got 2 teams to beat up on in Hawaii and Huntsville. I don't know. It's gonna be weird. I've got them in the playoffs right now. I do, but I'm a pitching guy. They've got pitchers that make me drool. I'm a pitching guy. I'm easy to predict. So.
And the thing with them is they got a good bullpen too.
Yeah. San Antonio. I don't know.
I mean, you're signing a good closer when I know Cal Russo plans on winning 85, 90 games this year.
He does not give up. And sometimes he does not give up, and I think he should, he proves everybody wrong.
I put it on the chopping block. I forget where this year, but I said that they're not going to be good.
I don't think they're going to be good either. I don't think they can be.
Oh, it was when they made the Quintana deal.
Yeah,
and I said this is a great trade, but it makes no sense for this team.
Right, and that's what we were just actually just recorded the trade one and kind of said the same things with we thought the deal was fair. It's just
if you look at it value wise, it's a good deal, but I don't. I think I even said on the thread for it. This trade makes sense if they're planning on contending for a playoff spot, but I don't think they're good enough to do it.
No, and they've got some pitchers. I mean, I'm so sad that Wick has lumped a little bit. That's just not fair. Buckland, he's just never done it. Like, he's got the ratings, but he's never done it. Do they have two guys nicknamed Snow God? They have two guys nicknamed Snow God. Good job, guys.
They also had two guys named Jose Gutierrez, I believe, or was it them or somebody else? I think it was New Orleans actually. They had two starting pitchers with the same name. That was really a pain when I was doing that spreadsheet.
Huntsville a few years back had two shortstops with the same name that were the platoon. That was awesome. Like, one was right-handed, one was left-handed. Steve ran the team. But yeah, I mean, they've got some pitching. Their bullpen's okay. These signings, we're not doing team previews. I'm sorry, we're doing free agent signings. They brought back Juan Jose Ornelas for nothing because he's a legacy guy. The Dylan Young deal, that's not bad.
No, like I said, I mean, I kind of like the moves they made, but I like the moves they make if you're a team like Charm City. I think if Charm City has made these moves, they would make a lot more sense.
Yeah. Although they'll go out and make the playoffs. I just never know what to expect. There's a handful of teams. There's 3 or 4 teams where I just I have a prediction and then I go, but something else may happen, and that is any team run by Fred Holmes, because I can't say Omaha anymore because it's now Mexico.
And Omaha's a completely different team.
Mexico franchise.
Yeah, if you say Carolina, people know who you mean.
Right.
If you say Omaha, people think you're talking about the team actually in Omaha.
Yeah. Indaha, that's that franchise. We should just refer to them as like Mexomaha and Indaha, and then I will know who they are. So I don't count those guys out. I don't count out Cal Russo's teams because they've proven me wrong so many times. Well, there's no reason to count out Mexico City right now. We're rambling. We're done with the. You can all stop listening now. We're done with. Oh wait, no, we need to do recaps. Free agency recaps. So who do you think did the best in the old Johnson this year?
I mean, by default, probably Rockville. I mean, they signed one guy via free agency, but it was the best guy, and that's a move that could put him over the top.
Yeah, I like Montreal. I think we covered that before. I think they.
Yeah, but I think those are your two.
And Nashville, right? Like, for totally different reasons. Like, it's kind of cool. They're like the 3 different things. Like Rockville got the piece. They needed that piece, and they went out and they got it. And then
Montreal made the bunch of moves.
Great team that doesn't need much, but found a way to improve themselves without spending too much money. And then Nashville is the what you should do while you're bad. So.
And now the trick with Nashville is, I wonder how many of those guys they end up flipping.
I don't know. And like we said, we always talk about flipping guys, but it's actually kind of hard. A lot of it depends on what injuries happen.
But they spread those signings out over enough positions.
They'll be able to flip a couple, maybe.
Where pretty much any injury. I need a first baseman. Oh, I got one.
A lot of that's starting pitcher. But they've got to play well, right? Too, and a lot of that's going to depend on Peters and kind of his approach to things. I wouldn't be surprised if they only flipped one guy. I don't think it even hurts them if they don't flip any of these guys because of what they did with their fan interest. I mean, that's the big win here, is that they didn't just completely tank their fan interest and disillusion their fans to where no one shows up at the games. So
yeah, but no, like I said, I think Rockville, Montreal, and then if you want to go Nashville, all 3 ironically in the Atlantic.
Okay, let's go to. So let's wrap this up. Thanks for being here, Randy. I hope everybody listened, had a good time. I am sorry for the people that we beat up. I hope you prove us wrong. And I hope for the people that we said did well, we didn't jinx you. Thanks for being here, Randy.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.